The Boris legacy. I said we discuss the Boris legacy. Is it a magnificent one of great triumph and victory, or is it a career that reached the very pinnacle? There was so much optimism and hope and has ended in total disaster. I wonder what the answer is. Well, Andrew Gimson, of course, former sketch writer for The Telegraph and author of a book on the great Boris. Very good, Andrew. Great to see you. It's
inscribed to Nigel, who did so much to prepare the way. For...
It's funny that because... Thank you very much indeed. It's funny that because, actually, I got rid of Mrs May, not Boris.
Yes.
I got rid of Mrs May, and it opened the door for him, and
very polite of you.
And I wanted to get Brexit done, of course, yes. Absolutely. And in the general election, I realised, actually, if we stood in those 300 seats, if I went around the country and rubbished the Brexit deal, said it's a load of cobblers, actually, would have, the Lib Dems would have won dozens of seats. So I did all those things, which did help him get there. Yes. And I can't help but sit here and feel pretty angry about the way that he used the opportunity of being Prime Minister. And that we'll look back on this period as being a terrible waste.
Well, who would have done better? That's the question.
Well...
you're immediately implying a sort of perfect Prime Ministership.
No.
They're all there to take the blame in the end.
No, he had COVID to deal with.
Yes.
I get that, and that was a big deal, although it sort of went on rather longer than perhaps it might have done. Obviously, Ukraine has taken up a lot of time over the course of the last few months. Yeah. I think my frustration is getting Brexit done wasn't just leaving. There was lots of other tidying up to do. They didn't do any of it.
It's not really tidying up, though. It's being a self-governing nation.
Well, being a self-governing nation gives you the ability...
That's never actually... There's always danger in independence and in freedom, isn't there? We always find something to argue about, or some precipice that we're in danger of.
I mean, of course, you could argue that independence is actually about the right to mismanage our own lives.
Yes, and occasionally learn from mistakes. I don't know if you've ever learned from any of your mistakes.
Oh, very doubtful.
I'm not very good at it, mate.
Very doubtful. No, he didn't use the opportunity. Yeah. We haven't deregulated. We haven't lifted the burden off business. We pursued a loony energy policy. I mean, OK, you can argue net zero, which came in the last days of Theresa May as a target. You can argue it was in the manifesto, but the emphasis that he put...
The energy policy has been loony.
Build back Beaver. What the hell was that all about?
The energy policy has been loony, but it was loony in Germany too, so... Which doesn't...
That doesn't help.
It doesn't help, no. But, I mean, the sheer unscrupulousness of German policy and deliberately making themselves...
I'm being very critical. Yes. Andrew, you sum up Boris's career.
Oh, the greatest well, I think, of course, the difference between him and you is that he worked within an established party, and you very quickly went into opposition and spurred the established party into eventually doing what you thought was the right thing. But he's the greatest Conservative campaigner since Thatcher, an astonishing ability to connect with the wider public, and actually in a tradition of Tory Democrats, which goes back to Disraeli, and when the working class were first getting the vote in 1867, and Disraeli saw these angels in marble, he saw that many workers are very conservative. They believe in family, religion, the monarchy, the armed forces, all these things. And the liberals, the middle-class liberals, Gladstone, thought, well, these are our people. And then later on, Labour thought, these are our people. They took them for granted. And they subjected them to a lot of progressive nonsense. Now, you, of course, were always very old-fashioned. You were the city gent in your city gear. And you had old-fashioned recreations and everything. And this took the progressive establishment very much by surprise. They didn't understand it. And Boris also is in many ways an old-fashioned person.
No, I get that. I get that. I mean, overall, I suppose you have to say, despite the fact that tomorrow morning at 7:30 is going to be very hard for him to get up and say what he has to say in Downing Street, but he's been Mayor of London, he was re-elected as Mayor of London, he's reached the position of Foreign Secretary of Prime Ministership. What now? I mean, you've studied this man, you've worked with this man, what next?
Well, he has an astonishing... resilience. He'll still, in a way, he'll still have a very high opinion of himself. He'll think that, the Tory party, this herd, as he called them, of Tory MPs,
wasn't very graceful.
And of course, there was an element of truth in that they did. Well, in fact, they're not a herd; they're a tribe, and the tribe decides to murder its chief every so often.
Yeah.
And the tribe lost confidence. and had many reasons to lose confidence in
Yeah.
Boris Johnson, and so out he went. But he will be looking to. There's a very obscure. You possibly not heard of him. I don't know if you did any of his works at Dulwich College, but there's this obscure playwright called William Shakespeare, and Boris is going to bring him before a wider public finish his book on that. He'll obviously give a great many speeches, and his gift for putting himself at the centre of any story, which he's had since he went as the Telegraph's correspondent to Brussels in 1989.
Oh, no, if he wants to do it,
he'll
he
still
can
be
do
there.
it. Yeah, if he wants to do it, he can do it. He'll be in America and make money. A final thought. We know he's a great cheerleader. Fantastic cheerleader. You know, wave the pom-poms, be the PR man for London.
Yes.
You know, go out and spread optimism, even if there isn't much backing it up.
Yes.
He can do all of that.
Yes.
Is he a leader?
Oh, I think he is in the sense of being prepared to risk his own skin. I mean, of course, some people thought he took too many risks, but he was bold, and he wasn't. And he was, of course, bold in his use of language. I mean, sometimes deliberately in order to provoke his enemies into getting so angry that they couldn't work out how to think straight about how to beat him. But I think he unquestionably is a leader. In fact, it's difficult to see what other position in the team he could really occupy. He is. I played cricket with him once, and he definitely was the captain. we got thrashed because the other side had some chap who'd been captain of the West Indies who dented all our cars by hitting six. But Boris didn't give up. He came on to bowl himself. He took a wicket. Anyone else would have thought, well, the game's over, and he didn't. And he won't think the game's over now.
No, he won't. Andrew Gimson, thank you very much indeed.